Evan, and hi everyone. I actually recognize some people on here. I think some people actually went to college with like Plato. So hey guys, it's nice to get connected again. And thank you so much for joining. I'm really excited to share a little bit about my story and my journey, but also hopefully give you some, I guess, new learnings or insights about developing physical products and getting them to market. So without further ado, let me set up my presentation here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and just give a little background about me, very short, a little bit about my entrepreneurship journey, and then roll into some insights, some hard lessons that I've learned in entrepreneurship. And at the end, I think we're going to have a little bit of a Q&A session. So feel free to ask anything in the Slido, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have. So the brand that I built is called ELIMS. It is a sustainable oral care company, sort of at the crossroads of being clinically valid and sustainable. But before we get there, let me just share a little bit about me and my background, just so that you get a sense of how I've wound up here today in front of you guys. So first of all, I grew up Canadian. I live in Los Angeles now. Obviously, I went to college at CMU. This is my mom and dad. I think my mom is actually on the call somewhere. So hi, Mom. She's my muse and my inspiration. So I'm so glad that she's here. This is the three little kids down here are me, my sister, and my brother. I'm the one with the classic Asian bowl haircut, so you can see that there. And we grew up very happy, but very, very modest life. And I bring that up because my parents immigrated from Burma in Southeast Asia to Canada when I was actually before I was born. So I was born in Canada. And my parents were very entrepreneurial. My father started several businesses when I was young. And one of them was the shop in Vancouver. It's a little shop that sold gifts and some wicker furniture and things like that. And my parents opened that store when I was 2 years old. So I basically grew up here. So I grew up in a small business, and I did everything from marketing, inventory management to, cleaning up the shelves and, setting up the displays for the next day and so on and so forth, and customer management, all of that stuff. When I got a little bit older, my father actually moved to Hong Kong, and he started a luggage business, and he took me with him. And that was when I was about like 14 or 15 years old. So I was at a very young age exposed to business and entrepreneurship. My dad used to take me to big meetings with, the heads of Elle magazine and Vogue magazine, because he was building products for them. And I had no idea. I was a little 15-year-old sitting at a conference table taking notes. Like, I didn't know what customer acquisition was or market research, but I was writing it all down. And so that was sort of my first dose of entrepreneurship. And what it taught me was really grit. Like, you got to really work hard. You have to live, breathe your business. The second thing it taught me was like basic business acumen. I didn't get my MBA until a few years ago. And so I worked in a business function for a long time, doing things that I knew were business related, but I didn't know the words for them. I just saw it that my dad was doing those things. And the other thing that I learned when I was, kind of being in these small businesses around my parents is, especially when I was working at this little shop that my parents had growing up, I was really bored all the time. Like, I wanted to go to the mall with my friends, but every weekend and after school, I had to go to the help out at the shop. So I did a lot of daydreaming. And how is that relevant? It's because in entrepreneurship, that's what you're doing all the time. I went from daydreaming when I was a kid about, like My Little Pony, to now daydreaming about business, daydreaming about different types of business models. And so this is like my first dose of entrepreneurship. But I took the long road to entrepreneurship. So I went to CMU in 2004. If you guys are doing the math, yeah, I did. I went to college when I was 12. But in any case, I studied engineering to mostly appease my parents. Thanks, Mom. And then once I graduated from Carnegie Mellon, I went into my first job at Medtronic. So I worked in regulatory for a short stint. I did some engineering work, but really my heart was in product development and marketing. So I pivoted my career about 3 years into my career at Medtronic to do more product development side of marketing. So a lot of market research, a lot of pipeline development, customer evaluations, competitive analysis. And I had 15 wonderful years there. I learned a ton. One of my products is the product that you see here in the middle here. It's called the MiniMed 670G. It's the world's first artificial pancreas. This product won Time Magazine's Invention of the Year in 2015. It was in Popular Science. I got a bunch of patents on it. So wonderful. And I learned a lot of valuable lessons. But after 15 years in corporate world, to be honest, I started getting bored. I felt like I wasn't learning anything. So I decided I'm going to go get my MBA. So I got my MBA at UCLA Anderson. I got an executive MBA. And if you don't know what an executive MBA is, it's basically an MBA for old people, in short. But great experience. I met a ton of people. And that's really where I started thinking differently about my career and about entrepreneurship. Just a quick spotlight. This is my family. My husband, Casey, he's a dentist. So that's why I built a oral care company, is really, based on some, conversations with him. And these are my three kids, Braden, Ryan, and Nolan. And they are absolutely my inspiration for everything. So that's a little bit about me. Kevin, I see some things in the chat here, so I'm not checking those, just FYI. Okay. So this is ELIMS. So ELIMS, if you forget the name or don't know how to pronounce it, it's basically the word smile backwards. Okay. And it's a play on the smile that you see in the mirror. So what are you doing when you're brushing your teeth? Maybe you're checking your phone like me, but most people are like looking in the mirror, and they're looking at their smile. And so we really wanted to build a brand that was like meaningful and interesting. And the way I got here is, a lot of people ask me, Belinda, how did you go from med tech to toothbrushes? Like, that's just seems like the opposite direction of where you want to go. And the answer is that after being in medical devices for so long, I kind of knew how to do things. And I think at some point, like, building medical devices take decades, right? And I wanted to have a faster product cycle. And so I started thinking like, well, what are my skill sets? What are the things that I'm passionate about? What do I actually know? I only wanted to work on something that I actually knew how to do. And so, my husband's a dentist, and I have this background in entrepreneurship. And then I also had another co-founder who came from the manufacturing field in medical devices. And so I called her and I said, hey, like, can we do this? And, the answer was yes, we could do it. And so that's kind of how this started from. And honestly, it's very interesting because think about something that every human being on the planet has to do. There's only a few things. Like if you say shaving, well, not everybody shaves, right? Kids don't shave. And, some people just don't ever shave in their life, but that's a huge market. The one area is, oral care. Everyone on the planet has to take care of their teeth, which means as a sustainability and a healthcare company, we have a real opportunity to both impact people's lives in terms of their healthcare, their oral healthcare, and the impact on trash on the planet. And why is that important? Well, yeah, oral care is getting pretty trashy, guys, if you haven't noticed. In the US alone, there are over 1 billion toothbrushes that are thrown away every single year, and over 700 million tubes of toothpaste, which means that every toothbrush that you have ever used in your life is still rotting in some kind of landfill somewhere, which is a very unfortunate statistic. And most of these products are not recyclable, unfortunately, not at home recycling. Some private recyclers do it, but very few and far between. So the question is, okay, we want to build something that's sustainable for oral care, but are there sustainable options that actually clean your teeth? I come from med tech. My husband's a dentist. This stuff has to work, right? It can't just be snake oil. So do sustainable options out there actually work? And we did over 400 hours of interviews with dental professionals, and they said, Belinda, I can't put some data around it, but it just seems like people who use like the bamboo toothbrushes and like the natural organic so-and-so, they seem to come in with more problems. So that was a light bulb moment for me where I was like, wow, okay, well, we have an opportunity here to kind of mix these two things. And so the first thing I did, and the first thing that you should do if you're ever going to develop your own business, is you have to figure out, how big is this market? Is it a big enough market? Is it not crowded? And can I get a slice of the pie of this share? So I did my research, and it turns out it's a massive market. It's over $50 billion market, right? Because like I said, everyone on the planet has to take care of their teeth. And yes, absolutely. Even though when you walk through Target, you'll see there's a ton of oral care brands, but really they're all just like all under one or two brands. And they're just extensions of that one particular brand, like Crest and Colgate and Sensodyne, right? So there's not that many players. So can I make a dent in this? We should track. So like I said, ELIMS is at the crossroads of clinical and real sustainability. We're not trying to find a sustainable story in our products. We actually built our products clinical and sustainable. Check, check. And when you cross these two things, you'll find that there's no one in this field. No one is both sustainable and clinically effective. We're on this island, this lonely island by ourselves. And the messaging absolutely works. We launched back in the summer of last year, and we've gotten a ton of fanfare, and I'll share that with you in a moment. But you can see some of these brands over here are trying to be in different places. So basically, consumers have to make a trade-off. Do I choose my health, or do I choose the planet? You can't have both, but now you can. Another piece of statistic I wanted to share with you guys. So NYU Stern does this study every few years, but the last one they did was the last 5 years back. So 2015 to 2020, that showed that sustainability marketed products period, not just CPG products, but sustainably marketed products grew 7.1 times faster than their other counterpart. So pick anything like toothbrush. So there's a sustainable version and a non-sustainable version. The sustainable version grows 7 times faster. So it's a growing market. So that's check for me. I know the market's big enough. It's a growing market. There's enough passion and interest in this market. So that's how we came up with our products. So these are our hero products. All of our products are designed by us. So by our team of dentists, myself, who is a biotechnologist. We make sure all our products are backed by studies, backed by science, backed by data, for those of us who believe in data and nature. So we try to make our products as natural as possible. We took out all the nasty ingredients, all the sulfates and all of that stuff to make sure our products are as clean as possible. And then all our products are developed as sustainable as possibly can, as much as technology allows. So all our products are sourced sustainably. For example, our toothpaste is made out of this new ingredient called nanohydroxyapatite. It's new in the US. It's a fluoride alternative, but totally natural. Nanohydroxyapatite is actually what your teeth and your bones are made of. So it's completely biocompatible, and has been used in Japan and Korea for over 40 years in their toothpaste. So what we did is we took that and we housed them in these tubes. The tubes are made out of sugarcane. So what happens is that our supplier in Brazil, where most of the sugar cane in the world is made, they develop the sugar from the sugar cane, and the husk is thrown away. So what we do is we take the husks and then we dry them and grind them so they become sort of a plastic replacement. So there's no petroleum-based plastics in our packaging. So that's how we replace the petroleum question. And so our toothpaste tubes have far less carbon emissions than any other plastic tubes out there. And so that's how we sort of full circle bring in the sustainability with the clinical aspect of it. Finally, if you want to, you can recycle any of your oral care products with us. We work with our partner TerraCycle, a private recycler, and we will take your oral care products back for free and recycle them, because it's just simply the right thing to do. So I think I'm kind of charging through time, so I'm going to move a little bit quicker. So we make money by our D2C site. So we have an e-commerce site that has subscription and just a la carte products. We also are ramping up our dental program. So we're going to be selling some of our products through dental offices. And then finally, we're in some brick and mortar. So this picture here on the right-hand side, this is Showfields, if anyone here has been there, in New York City. It's a beautiful department store. And so we have a presence there. In the news, so we've had a ton of fanfare. So Healthline named our teeth whitening product as the best sustainable teeth whitening out there. The Huffington Post said that we're innovating as a beauty brand, which is fascinating because we're oral care, but they're calling us in the cosmetic category, which is fun. We've been on TV, we've been on Vogue, NBC. I personally was named in Forbes Next 1,000 list back in September, which is so exciting. Just an insight on that, I made a secret promise to myself when we launched in the summer that I would make it into Forbes in 3 years, and it happened in 3 months. So that's super exciting. It's great to have that recognition. But the reason I'm so proud of being on the Forbes list is because they actually put us under the social entrepreneurship category, which is what we were going for. To be recognized for the social impact that we're doing makes all of this super worth it. So that's my spiel about the company. And then now I'm going to get a little bit into some insights and sort of war stories of of what I've learned during my journey. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer some questions that actually the T&E community has asked me through the Slack channel, through emails, through other presentations like this. And the first one is, Belinda, how do I create a product when I don't have a ton of money? How do I create a physical product? And so I think that we were super, super scrappy at the very beginning we're still scrappy now, but we were very scrappy very early on. So I just wanted to walk you through how we did that. Another question I get asked frequently is like, well, what's the difference between like a physical product and a software product? The main difference in terms of product development is that you have to get the product right. You have to get it right before you go to market. You cannot release a half-baked tube of toothpaste or toothbrush, right? You can do that with software to an extent because you can iterate, you can push out an update the next day or the next week, but you can't do that with a tube of toothpaste. So that's why the early on product research going into launching a product is super, super important. So let me walk through this really quick. So, okay, so product development, number one. The way I think about product development is really using a scientific approach. So so if you think about your business or your idea as a science experiment, this will really help, okay? And I think we're mostly nerds here, so this should resonate. So the first thing that you do, you have an idea. Bam, I want to do this one thing. I'm going to make this thing. Could be peanut butter, it could be the next nut milk or whatever it is. The first thing that you have to do is obviously validate your idea. So you got a great idea, I got great ideas, but how do you know this is really going to stick? How do you know that you can make a business out of it? So the first thing you have to do is you have to do your research. What are the needs? Not what's the solution, but what are the needs that you're trying to solve with this product or this idea? Once you get that, then you try to find the solution. Next is that you have to prototype it. You have to build it and make it. And then you have to test it. You have to test it. And then repeat this, build it, test it, build it, test it, build it, test it, and learn. And then once you exhaust this many times, then you probably have a product that really works. But that's not the only part of product development. The other part that's almost as important as the idea and the product is validating your business plan. Okay, this is super critical. So you're validating your idea. At the parallel, you have to validate your business idea. You ask me, okay, well, how do I do that, Belinda? That sounds like, do I need an MBA? No, you don't need an MBA. Okay, you don't need it. It's helpful to have people in your life who have MBAs who can give you insights. But I'll tell you, very simplistic at a high level. First, do your research, market research. How big is the market? Is it uncrowded? Can I make a dent here? Can I take some share? Who's the target customer? Is there enough of them to pay me for this thing? Because I'll tell you guys, entrepreneurship is the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. And so if you don't answer these questions, it's going to get a lot harder for you down the road. Next, your business model. How does your business make money? You have to be very, very, very specific on that. And you have to make sure that you're right. Second, does it work? Does your business model work? Find the customer. Who's the customer? Who's going to be paying you? And you got to keep testing this idea. What's the business model? Does it work? Keep going and going. So let me give you some details and some tools on how to do this exactly. Okay, so validating your idea. So first, research. So people ask me all the time, well, Belinda, how do I do research when I don't have a ton of money? Okay, so validating an idea. So ask people around you, like, hey, is this a problem that you have, a pain point? Tell me more about it. Don't try to push your idea on them. Just listen for what their pain points are. Second of all, like, honestly, go to a library, especially if it's a university library. So hint, find a CMU student that you know and ask them, because at universities, they actually have licenses for tons more stuff that you can get at like a public library, right? So you can get industry reports that usually, like at Medtronic, I used to pay like tens of thousands of dollars for industry reports. And these universities have access to them for free. So find a student at any university. If they're linked to the business school, even better, then you can actually ask them to pull some of this information for you. And they have access to librarians too. And usually the university librarians are very good at sourcing information. And then also stalk your competitors. How are they talking about the problem? Is there a way that you can differentiate yourself from their products and their services or their branding? Perhaps you have the same product, but you're just taking a different angle at it. Next, make your product. You got to prototype it, and you got to prototype it many times. When we were formulating one of our toothpaste formulas, it took 17 iterations. We did 6 formulations of 6 different flavors. And so each one of those had 15 to 20 different versions of each flavor. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like, you have to build it and test it. Find supply. If you can't make it yourself, find suppliers or contract manufacturers. To find contract manufacturers, what I did is I actually went and found my competitors, and I found out who was making their stuff, and I reached out to them, because usually a contract manufacturer will make stuff for, like, they'll make a tube of toothpaste, but they'll make it for several different brands. So that's also an option out there. One website that's very helpful is thomasnet.com, or I think it's thomasnet.net, something like that. But anyway, you can Google it. I found a lot of suppliers through there. Expect multiple iterations of your products, just your prototypes. Just know that you're not going to get it right the first time. So some tips on working with suppliers. A lot of people ask me this question, like, how do I know I have a good supplier? How do I find a supplier for low cost? So find someone who is an expert at what they do. So for example, when I was sourcing a toothpaste manufacturer, I wanted to find someone who only did that. They don't do floss and toothbrushes and all that. I just wanted to find this place that did just this one thing and did it really, really well. So find someone who's an expert in their field. Ask for free or low R&D costs. So initially, when a supplier takes you on, they'll actually ask for a little bit of money. So it's I think the most I ever paid was like $150. Okay, that's excellent. Pay either free or a little bit of cost in order to get the R&D going, and make sure you ask for unlimited revisions, right? Because you're going to have to do that. Once you get a formulation that you like, you have to ask for low MOQs. MOQ stands for minimum order quantity. So you want to make sure that they can accommodate very small batches, because if they ask for like 10,000, 2,000, 20,000 units, it's going to get very expensive. So you want the ones who are can produce small batches. Also, make sure you ask for exclusivity, because you want to make sure that you own the formula and they're not shopping around your formula and your creation with your competitors. So finally, test the product. Take that product, ask your friends and family, people that you trust, people that's going to give you honest, but good feedback. You can also ask experts in the field. So I actually reached out to some of our competitors, and I just said, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm just starting in this business. Would you mind just talking to me? Don't tell me anything proprietary. I don't want to hear. I just want to get a sense of what the market is like. And so actually some people from our competitors got on the phone with me, and they told me about the industry, the challenges, some of their suppliers. And interestingly enough, I just brought on one of those people as an advisor to my company. So so you can reach out to your competitors. Nothing stopping you from doing that. And LinkedIn is a great way to find those people. And then finally, ask anyone you think might be an end customer. So if you think someone's your best friend's mom's daughter's boyfriend is the perfect person for your product. Ask that person if they're going to try your product, and ask them to try it a couple of times so that they can give you honest feedback along the way. Just a quick note about like just blasting the internet and asking anyone in the world to try your product. You don't want to do that because there's like liabilities associated with that. So let's say you make a brand new type of peanut butter and then you ask the internet, hey, does anyone want to try my peanut butter? You ship it out to someone, they have a reaction. You just don't want that. You want to just keep it to a small circle. Okay, so let me just double check something really quick here. Okay, validating your business model. Perfect. Okay, so next, validating your business model. This is where I think every startup could do a little bit better. So I'm going to go step by step. Research, okay? Build a hypothesis. Build a hypothesis, build hypotheses about what your product is going to do, what your business is going to do, okay? And you're going to ask me like, okay, well, how do I do that practically? So here's what I did. Literally, this is what me and my team did. Okay, we built a list of hypotheses, maybe like 9 or 10 of them, and we wrote them down. So we said, here are the categories, if you can see in the spreadsheet. Here are the hypotheses. Just remember, this is like a science experiment. So you have a hypothesis about how an outcome is going to turn out. And then we wrote down, what are all the questions we have around this hypothesis? Who answers it? What kind of person do we need to talk to? What's the method we're going to reach out to them? And who owns this line item? I mean, if you're a solo entrepreneur, it's okay. But this is a great way to get organized, guys. So let me just run you through a quick example. So one of our hypotheses is that we can mass produce a biodegradable toothbrush. So some questions are, can we find a manufacturing partner? What are the materials that will biodegrade? How long will it take to biodegrade? What's the technology that we need? Blah, blah, blah. Who's going to answer these? Well, contract manufacturers, chemists, regulatory people, sustainability experts, all these people can answer. Then next step for me to finish out this line item is to go find these people who can answer these questions for me. The next, follow up to this is creating a spreadsheet with all the answers so that you can back up these hypotheses, right? Next, do your market research. So this is a table that we built to outline who are we going to talk to and how are we going to talk to them? Is it interviews? Is it surveys? Is it focus groups? What's the method, right? You want both qualitative and quantitative market research. So talking to people, but also surveys. So talking to people, what does that look like? So you can talk to anyone who's a potential customer, experts in the field, like I mentioned before, either like competitors or people who just really know a lot about this stuff. In our category, it's dentists, right? Dentists and oral hygienists. You can also interview suppliers and vendors and find out more about, this product, this industry. And then also you want to create surveys. So these could be like basic surveys in like Qualtrics, right? Google Forms, whatever form that you want. You really want to learn about people's needs, their current solutions that they're using now, and think about how your product is different, right, from theirs. And then you want to ask about pricing. What are they willing to pay? The other question I get a lot is like, who takes these surveys? And like, surveys sound really expensive. Well, I'll tell you the cheapest way to do it. And this is how I did it. Okay. I built a survey and then I loaded it on MTurk. Does anyone know what MTurk is? MTurk, despite the terrible name, is one of Amazon's many portfolio companies. So it's basically a marketplace for digital workers. So like you and I could actually go on, sign up to be a digital worker and, take jobs. We can do some things like bookkeeping or do a little bit of graphics, but they also take surveys. Very cheap. I mean, I must have listed it at like $1, a survey. I think one time I did it at like a penny. I mean, it's super cheap. What you want to do with your surveys is make sure you have at least an N of 300. At least 300 people take the survey for it to be statistically significant. So MTurk is a great way to do that. MTurk is a snapshot of the general population, and you can narrow by geography. So for us, we narrowed it to the US, and then we put parameters around education level and things like that. And they took our surveys. I mean, we must have gotten 300 survey takers in the first 6 hours. I mean, it's really powerful. So you do that. You could also distribute your surveys on Facebook groups. So join Facebook groups that are your target market or have the same sort of mission as you. So in my case, I joined some of these sustainability Facebook groups. And then I ask these people to take my survey. And then obviously also friends and family. Finally, if you don't know how to do any of this stuff, if you have no interest in it, find someone who will help you, be a partner with you, either a friend or hire an intern, or you can even call me and I can walk you through it. Okay, so let's see. All right. I didn't highlight it here, but also make sure you find your target customer. That is super, super important. It's almost as important as validating your business plan. Your business plan is based on who your target customer is. These are the people who are going to be paying you. Next, how do you prototype and test your business model? So do you build a business plan? No, don't do it. Business plans are like 80 pages. You don't want to get caught in the weeds and not actually validate your idea or your business. What you want to do is really do a business model canvas. Go ahead, Google it. It's a one-page document that basically takes a business model, a business plan, and puts it on a one page. Just distill it down to the necessary things. The business model canvas is a live document. So it has things in there like target market, goals, operational targets and things like that. And then you put your hypotheses that you gathered and you put it in there. You start putting answers in there and you update it as frequently as you can at the beginning. So you get a nice holistic picture of exactly what your business is doing and how it's evolving. Next, test the business model. How do you test the business model? You can actually run some micro experiments on your business model. So, one easy way of doing it is just like talking to experts in the field and asking them, hey, what do you think? Does this make sense? And that way you're also refining your message and your story. A few questions that I always like to ask myself is like, does it make money? And the question that I love is that, what is my fastest path to $1 million in revenue? Because that will get you really lean and focused on building a business that actually creates revenue and value. Okay. You did your research. You got the target market. You figured out, how big the market is. You have a product. You developed it. You tested. You're ready to go. Okay, you're ready to launch this product. So what? So when you launch a product, whether it's a software product, whether it's a tube of toothpaste, it doesn't matter. Every brand new business goes through the marketing funnel. And the marketing funnel is NBA talk for basically how you acquire business. So at the top of the funnel, we call the top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, the bottom of the funnel. The top of the funnel is nobody knows who you are. Okay, from a branding experience, you launch, nobody knows who you are. Okay, so you got to figure out how much of marketing do I need to do to get to the middle of the funnel. The middle of the funnel means that people know who you are, but they haven't purchased from you yet. Okay, so at the very beginning of any business, you have to go from people know you to people don't know you to people know you, and then to paying customers. Okay, that in a very simplistic fashion is how a business grows. Right now, ELIMS just launched back in the summer. Bet you most of you on this call today were at the top of the funnel for ELIMS, right? You didn't know what ELIMS was. You had no idea. Now you're actually in the middle of the funnel. Hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll be at the bottom of the funnel and have some conversions. But through launch, I want to remind you guys to keep the scientific mindset, keep it as a science experiment. After you launch day, guys, is just a regular day. It's just a regular business day. It's nothing special. After you launch, think about the first 3 to 6 months as sort of like your experimentation phase. Keep this scientific mindset of trying different things, learning about it, and then applying your learnings as you go along. Don't get so caught up in I have to make sales right now. Most people launch their business, they're like, how come I don't have 1 million people buying this and paying me money right now, 2 days after launch? It's because you're at the top of the funnel. You got to work hard to get the awareness so that you get into the middle of the funnel and hopefully to the bottom of the funnel. All right. So you developed your product, you launched it, and now you're ready to scale. So people always ask me, how do you know when you're ready to grow and to scale? And that's different for every business. But at the core of it all, you will know when it's ready to officially scale when you are 100% certain of who your target customer is. This is paying person and you can literally pinpoint them. Because when you know who your target market is, then you can focus all your attention on just getting to these folks. These are the people who are going to constantly be paying you. They are your bread and butter. Once you have completely saturated your target market, then you can start expanding, right? So go and find your target customer and market to them. So some tips on scaling, after like 6 months to a year, you need to work with your team or ask yourself, like, what's working and what's not. Double down on anything that is working and make sure you cut off anything that doesn't work. I've seen so many businesses where people continue to do things that don't work. I'm like, why do you keep doing whatever, digital ads or social media? This stuff doesn't work. Get rid of it. Focus on the few things that actually work and double down on it, because your dollars will go further that way. Partnerships can definitely help get your brand awareness. So once you start to scale, make sure you're thinking about different B2B customers and B2C customers too. And then building out your team, building out your team is one of the most important things that you're going to do as an entrepreneur. Make sure you're picking people who are obviously complementary to you and the current team, that they jive with the culture. And most importantly, invest in key roles. Don't just hire like a team of people. Figure out in your business, what are the key things that are going to make this business grow from this phase to this next goal. In my business, it's marketing and operations. Those two categories, I do not skimp. I put good money into both of these categories, both from a business perspective and also from a hiring perspective. Everything else, like accounting and financials, I kind of, I'll save money in those places so I can reinvest in places where I actually get more value. So the last thing that I will say about, growing a business, especially in the CPG world, is cash flow is king, guys. After you launch, you have to control every single dollar coming in and out of your business. Cash flow is the only thing that stresses me out. It's the only thing that keeps me up at night, because once you launch, you're trying a lot of different things from a marketing perspective, and then you've got stuff that comes up unexpectedly. When I launched my business, the first 3 months, I kid you not, something went wrong every single day. Every week, something catastrophic happened. And so there's no way you can anticipate those things. And you just have to have a lot of cushion in your cash for those days when things like that are going to happen. So that's sort of my last sort of thing. Thank you so much for having me. I think we're going to go into some Q&A. But I also wanted to just make sure you guys know that, for everyone on the call today, if you go to our website, this is elims.com, and you enter this code, just type in CMU at checkout, everyone can get a complimentary reflection toothpaste. Like, we have 2 flavors. You can pick your pick. It's totally on me. So I just wanted to thank everyone for being on this call today and asking thoughtful questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Belinda. So we have the Slido up. We'll give maybe 30 seconds to a minute to just have folks answer or ask any questions that they have, but we already have a couple questions already. So we'll give folks like a minute or so there.
Another thing I wanted to add that I didn't mention is when I launched ELIMS as a product company, I found that people started soliciting me like crazy, like for their services, especially on the marketing side of things. And I definitely felt very overwhelmed in the first 6 months, because I didn't know, do I need SEO? Do I need to optimize my website? Do I need ads and things like that? So just know that if you're not a marketer at heart, you're going to have to really take some time to do some research on what marketing things you do need and what are not essential, because these marketers will definitely tell you that you're missing out on something and you need to hire them, but that may not be the case. I've hired several vendors that didn't have any kind of positive return, but they sold me on that I needed it. So if you have any questions about that, just email me, and then I can kind of walk you through, or I can help you vet some of these vendors to see if that's an appropriate use of your funds or anything like that.
Great. So I think we can get started on the questions. So first question from Josh. Any tips for startups navigating making FDA regulated products?
Oh yeah, get a regulator, man. Like, make sure you get a good regulatory person. They're very, very, very expensive. but I worked with the FDA for over 15 years, and they're regular people like you and I, but they're also like, they can be unreasonable. And I have war stories for years about working with them. But the FDA is very difficult to navigate. So you want to make sure you have a good regulatory consultant or someone who is helping you out. If you need some recommendations, I'm happy to do that for you. Also, medical devices is very, very capital intensive. It's one of the most capital intensive businesses out there. That's why a lot of startups struggle, because you need so much money. If you want an insight on this, Moderna's CEO talked to How I Built This, the podcast. He just did this recently, and he talked about this process. I mean, they literally invest $100 million before they decide they wanted to have a product or not. So it is very capital intensive, depending on what kind of product you're trying to develop. A lot of medical devices have gone to like a class 2 strategy instead of class 3. So just know, like, if it's class 1 or class 2, you probably have a better shot at getting to market in your lifetime. Class 3 is just convoluted, right? It's almost like a pharma product. So, but if you want, Josh, email me, and I'm happy to chat with you or connect you with my network.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, second question. So where do you stand on your engagement with venture capitalists? How do you plan on scaling ELIMS to 10x of its current size?
Yeah, great question. Okay, so funding, I didn't get into that, but that's like a whole other presentation. So we got funding from friends and family for the most part, a few angel investors, which is exactly where I want to be right now. Just remember, guys, when you go to like more serious money, like the institutional money, you get a boss. You get a boss. Okay, I became an entrepreneur so I can work for myself. Once I take VC money, suddenly now I have to perform, right? Like, if you don't take any serious money, you're taking like, more patient money, like friends and family, or even angel investors, even like family offices. They'll be much more patient with like the investment. VCs will expect an exit. Like, they're like, where is it in the next 5 years, right? But at the same time, can you grow and scale without VC money? Maybe, maybe not. It depends. The issue with CPG products, where the venture capitalist industry came from software. They came to invest in software. So with physical products that require a lot of inventory and product development investment upfront, a lot of VC firms don't want to be part of that. They want to be part of businesses that can scale very quickly, which CPG companies just by nature cannot. So where I stand with it is I do dabble in the VC. So I did talk to a VC yesterday that seemed very promising. We seem very aligned in terms of our mission. So my advice to anyone seeking VC funding is just make sure it's the right partner. They understand what you're doing. They get your vision. They're not trying to control you. But maybe for some people it's a good like motivator for them to perform, because now they have someone telling them kind of what to do and how to a little bit about how to do it. But I'm not against VC funding. I think it's entrepreneurship is an ecosystem, and they're one part of that ecosystem. You just have to make sure it's the right partner and the economics make sense.
Awesome. As a VC myself, I'm glad I didn't totally get crapped on. Great.
There's places for venture capitalists. It's just not for every industry. I mean, right, Kevin? Like, it's really designed for software for a reason, right? Because you can build it and scale it very quickly and cheaply.
Awesome. Next question.
Excuse me. Actually, can you please also expand on how to scale? How do you plan to scale the business? Kind of the second half of the question.
Yep. So scaling, we are going to raise a seed round coming up here in the next like couple of months. Right now, for me, it's all about brand awareness. So all I do is invest in marketing and making sure that the brand stands out, that we've got PR working for us, because that brings in like interest from other people. And then it's just building small step at a time. I cannot afford and I should not have a ton of different SKUs, a lot of different products. I want to make sure that we have just a few products in our portfolio and then scale those, get those really tight, get the unit economics really efficient on those things, right? Make sure I'm like really tight on the supply chain side of things and things like that. And then after that, like building in other products and other business models, if that makes sense. Like it's just really taking baby steps at a time.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Awesome. Next question that we have. So in terms of your product development, how do you select that initial set of materials? So how did you discover sugarcane for the tube or the toothpaste?
Yeah. It's just talking to a lot of people, guys. It's like, it's amazing. Like when you tap into a network, like let's say CMU, right? Or T&E, like when you start telling the universe and asking people about certain things, you actually lead down many paths. So, you know, I think one of our suppliers I got from one of my MBA classmates. They worked with someone who worked at the Honest Company, who worked with someone, and like literally person number 8 was the person who said, hey, you should go check out this packaging. So you just have to be talking to people, just constantly networking, talking to people, do your research, right? Go to the library, Google it, you know, talk to industry experts. And if you do, and if you're listening more than talking, you will get more insights about how to do things. And then you as an entrepreneur, I mean, most entrepreneur people have intuition, right? And your intuition will lead you to the right product or solution.
Awesome. Switching gears a little bit to kind of the financial side of things, how do you handle the finance and cash flow? I know you talked a little bit about that during your presentation, especially with physical products where you have a lot of spending in R&D and prototyping on top of marketing. So, yeah.
Yeah, so you have to pick and choose, right? You have to be very diligent about where every dollar is going out because it runs out very quickly. So, you know, I only try to do 1 or 2 things at a time. So, you know, I don't try to do product right now. I'm doing 0 product development. I'm only working on sales and business partnerships because otherwise I'm spending too much of my time and dollars on something else, right? So in terms of financials, you have to know where every dollar and cent is going. So I have like a spreadsheet that has my cash flow on it. Exactly. I know where all the dollars are going now, where it's going to go in the future. I have all my revenues on the bottom. I have all my investments on the bottom. And like, it's basically like a hacked P&L that tells me exactly when I'm going to run out of cash. And so I'm constantly chasing that number because I'm updating the spreadsheet and it's telling me exactly like, you know, you're going to run out of cash in 6 months or 12 months. Now it's 24 months, but it's down to 3 months now. So just making sure that you're very organized about those things. And if you can't do it, you need to find someone who's going to help you do it. It's the most important thing when it comes to launching a product.
Awesome. That's super insightful. And then one more question about your MBA. So do you think earning an MBA helped you in your entrepreneurial journey? So that's the perennial debate.
Yeah. So guys, you don't need an MBA to be an entrepreneur. You know, like one of my MBA classmates did a certificate in entrepreneurship and he called me one day. He goes, hey, Belinda, I'm finally an entrepreneur. I got this certificate. And I was like, bro, I got news for you. That doesn't make you an entrepreneur. So you don't need an MBA. The reason why it was, so for me, the short answer is yes, the MBA did push me into the direction of entrepreneurship, but for a slightly different reason. I think because of my background, especially since I was an engineer and not a business person coming out of school, I wasn't confident enough in my business roles to believe that I knew everything about business. So I was working as a product manager, making decisions as a product manager, but I always felt a little bit like a chip on my shoulder, like, oh, I don't know what these terms are. Like people would come in from an MBA program and, you know, we'd hire someone new and they say, oh yeah, let's just run a conjoint. I'm like, what's a conjoint? Should I know this word? And I had to go Google it. What is the conjoint analysis? Right. And so things like that made me feel like maybe I didn't know enough. And so the MBA, the reason why it helped me on the entrepreneurship journey is because when I got to the MBA, I realized, oh man, I know all this stuff. I just didn't know the words for it, the names for it. So it really built my confidence. So that's step one. A second part of it is that because of the MBA, I got access to this enormous network of people, of alumni and professors. And so anytime I need something, I just blast it out to the Anderson universe and they come back with answers. And so that network has been very powerful for me. And when I had the idea for my business, I actually ran it by one of my professors of entrepreneurship. And he literally said, yeah, you should do X, Y, and Z, do this and that. And he encouraged me to try. So in that way, like I needed a little bit of push because it's so scary. It's so scary thinking about like building something and like putting your idea and efforts out into the world for other people to judge. And it's a very lonely road. Like if there's any other founders on here or business owners, it's really tough. Like no one can solve your problems for you, only you can. And it makes it a very lonely place to be. So the MBA with the network really helped me, to this day, helps me find what I need when I need it.
Awesome. I think we have time for maybe one more question. So how do you handle your work-life balance and being, a serial entrepreneur with 3 kids at home? Or entrepreneur with,
Yeah, it's that I struggle with that every day. There's no balance. I always feel like I'm choosing something over the other and failing at those things so I can work on something. So if I'm with the kids, then I'm not working on the business. If I'm working on the business, I'm not spending time with my husband. If I'm spending time with him, I'm not taking care of myself. So it's something I don't have a good answer. If anyone has some tips, please call me. I need it. Like all I know is every 2 months I go get a massage and it helps. But otherwise, like when you have your own business, I mean, you just don't stop thinking about it. You dream about it, you snack about it, you daydream about it, you shower with it. Like it's just non-stop. And so you have to have the strength and the stamina to, keep up yourself and your health in order to, serve your business better. And I had to learn that the hard way. I had to learn that a very hard way. So you just have to keep taking care of yourself. But balance is something that I'm still trying to figure out.
Got it. Wow, that was a super, super awesome event. So I think we all learned a ton about, the whole process of ideation to being super, super iterative in the product development lifecycle, as well as, finding manufacturers. So on behalf of CMU T&E, I'd like to thank Belinda for sharing your journey with us. And we'll be following up with a recording on YouTube.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Great. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks,
Take care.
Belinda.